When a guy tells me he's a lifeguard, that really turns me on. Lifeguards are extremely macho.
I'll go out with any guy who's a lifeguard.
Lifeguard. Every girl's summer dream.
The girls are probably the best part of being a lifeguard.
When I'm with a lifeguard, everybody digs me.
That's what I think. The beach, the chicks, the water. It's like utopia.
Lifeguards aren't the kind of guys that want to get married. It's going to be a summer thing.
My idea of the American dream isn't the executive suite or the fancy car or the big mortgage. All I want out of life is my freedom.
He can be who he really wants to be, and when you see that in someone, it's really attractive.
I want to be a lifeguard as long as I can.
Paramount Pictures presents Lifeguard. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Lifeguard. Every girl's summer dream.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back. I am so excited to talk about this movie.
This movie was so fun.
I did not know this movie existed until last month.
And I'm so glad that it's here for all of you. Everybody listening, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott. And these are the movies that made us gay.
Yes.
Well, we have a celebrity with us today. Our very own sexy lifeguard, Love Connie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. Oh, my God. Catch a wave.
Thank you so much for recommending this movie to us.
This movie is bananas.
It's, what was, I can't remember, what was the first movie I recommended when you said, what made me gay? I can't even remember. Oh, Poseidon Adventure, of course.
Right. Jackie already beat you to it.
Which I love because Jackie Beat is, look, if it's about Poseidon Adventure or Carrie, I will bow down and let Jackie walk right over me because she's got all of the insight on that. But this is a lesser known film that, like you say, it's like a lot of people, especially gay people, have probably never even heard of. Right. Because of how it plays. I think it's what we would call now extremely politically incorrect, but
absolutely.
It really, nothing has changed if you also watch the film. It's like, people are still doing the same damn thing that they're doing in there, and getting caught for it and then getting kicked out of office.
Right.
Or such.
So, we watched Lifeguard, directed by Daniel Petrie, released July 23rd, 1976, starring Sam Elliot and Ann Archer, and Parker Stevens. Kathleen Quinlan, all-star cast.
Yeah.
It is a wonderful cast, I do have to say. It really is.
So, like Scott said, it was released in 1976, but what we did find out was that it was shot in 75.
Yes.
Because I was looking at some people's ages and then the whole class of 1960 and all of that good stuff. What was I going to say?
It's also, I like to think that was also the summer of Jaws.
Yep.
So
yes.
they tie into that. Wow, Jaws was a PG rated film that was intense, in its violence and thrills and everything. But like Lifeguard, there's that wonderful opening sequence that I was born in December of 1967. So these were movies that, now I saw Jaws with my family, but there's that whole skinny dipping scene in the beginning, and it was shot day for night.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when the Blu-rays came out, it's like, oh my God, she is full frontal bush and everything running into the ocean. And then I was watching Lifeguard again today, which I of course own. And again, I've seen it probably 4-5 times because I saw it in the theater. I probably saw it on television on HBO. I probably saw it many times on HBO.
Yeah.
And then I finally bought the DVD when they released it on DVD probably 10 or 15 years ago. And I'm still blown away by how much nudity you could get away with in a PG rated film back in the 70s.
The 70s were a very different time.
Yeah. I mean, would that even be PG? I guess that would be a PG-13 because there is a soft sex scene scene between him and Ann
Right.
Archer, and you see one of Ann Archer's nipples. But it's one of those things where the nudity is also like, the first girl, the flight attendant.
Played by Sharon Clark, who was a Playboy Playmate of the Year of 1971. I Googled the picture.
And did you notice that she
job,
changed her name? She changed her name also.
Oh, okay.
So maybe even for this film where there's a lot of nudity, which a Playboy Playmate would be perfect for it because she's used to taking off her clothes. But there was still some stigma attached when you were trying to make it as a Hollywood career. And she did a couple of other things, kind of random 70s stuff. She was on she did some Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
I'm a huge my number one are Dorothy Stratton, Anna Nicole Smith.
Sure.
I love those are my favorites.
I also grew up reading Playboy because my dad just got Playboy delivered to our house.
You were a lucky boy.
When I was a child, and it was probably one of those things that I'm just going to leave it on the counter to see if my gay son will read it. And you know what?
Off on him.
I always read it cover to cover.
You did?
Fascinated with it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yep.
So you see, you were well educated because I can say
I grew up on the Playboy brand.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I was from a very sexually repressed, with more Norman Bates with the domineering mother, kind of a pussy whipped father, who I found out recently. He's not with us anymore, but my mom's in her 90s now. And my sister has been confiding in me. It's like, Dad said he was going to kill her, but if it wasn't for us kids, or he thought he'd get caught, and I've started kind of appreciating that. And I'm like, oh, I like that.
All right.
So there was I was amazed at what I could get away with certain pinups,
Oh, sure.
Olivia, I always say, Olivia Newton-John was my gateway drug to Farrah Fawcett and then Debbie Harry.
Sure.
Kind
of like the Pokemon evolution.
I was going to say that's a good arc. That's a good evolution of pinup, blonde pinups.
Reference for the kids.
I love all of them. I love all
for the
three
millennials.
Yeah, exactly.
But the thing about this film, when I was a kid, because I wasn't athletic, and I did. My dad would normally be watching sports on the weekends. He was a big sports guy. He was a coach, Little League, and all that stuff. Mom and I would always go to the mall, and like I say, the first film I ever really, I think Poseidon Adventure was 72, and I believe Blazing Saddles was 74.
I want to say 74,
that's about right.
So I remember Poseidon Adventure blew my mind, and I had to have only been 5 years old. But to this day, I find I would go to that movie before I would ever seek out truth in the Bible or anything. Because Gene Hackman's preacher is so cool. He's like, pray to the part of God within you, not a God in the sky. So it's this very self-empowering film,
Yeah.
But I loved that. And around this time was when my mom was letting me go to matinees by myself. And I remember the very first matinee I saw at catch this up because I'm from the deep South.
All right.
The Battlefield Twin Cinema in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And listen,
the Battlefield Twin Cinema.
because God damn it, we lost the war, but we're naming the movie theater out of it,
multiplex.
And they would show all the Crown International. We had a drive-in theater. Okay. God, here's another tangent. We had a drive-in theater in my hometown of Tallulah, Louisiana. It's now you know why I'm a drag queen. I grew up in a town named after Tallulah. They had a drive-in, and they would play movies like Chatterbox, which was about Candace Rawson had a singing vagina. Oh. Yes. Ooh. And when you went to the football game at the academy, we went to the academy, that Christian school, all us little white kids. So horribly segregated. But when you would go up into the top of the bleachers, you could look over and you could see the drive-in. So at the football games, I was just mesmerized because I couldn't hear anything, but I could see all the nudity, and it was just crazy. So I think because of the nudity, I must have seen Lifeguard by myself at a matinee because my mother would have been, just would have been so uncomfortable having to sit through it because it's all fun. It's fun nudity. None of the nudity in this movie is it's fun, free, 70s porno chic because Deep Throat and Beyond the Green Door had already happened.
Yeah.
And Hollywood needed to not, kind of get with it or just relaxed a little bit.
Yeah.
And like I say, I don't know if it's like with the F word, if you just say, fuck you, you can have 1 or 2 in a PG movie.
Right.
But if you say, I want to fuck you,
Yeah.
then. So I kept looking at the nudity going, okay, they pull her top off at the beach, and there's that funny scene, but there's a lot of sex in here, and he's hot. Sam Elliot.
Oh, yeah. We got to discuss Sam Elliot.
Well, your audience will know him from Lady Gaga, from the Star Is Born.
Can you believe that was his first Oscar nomination? Shocking. But I guess what else would he have been
not
nominated
really,
for?
because, when I was thinking about him, and I was also thinking about this character of the Lifeguard, and I was also thinking about my life now, how as a drag queen who is totally independent, I don't have agents. I have in the past, but for drag, never. But I am not represented by anyone. You know what I mean? Like that Lifeguard, I've kind of had this free life where if I want to work, I can work. If I don't want to work, I don't have, I'm broke and everything. So that's a choice. But like this character says, it's like, he gets to just have kind of a great life where he can do what he wants to do because you don't have, you don't have a child that's depending on you or a woman at home or, and I also looked at him, the way he looks is so cult model gay. And because it's the 70s and the guys are wearing the short shorts, and he's got that kind of tie-dye tight tank top.
Obsessed with that. Obsessed with that tank top.
And you can Google image him, and if you Google image everyone Sam Elliot Lifeguard, it will be the first image that comes up, and he looks like he came out of the pages of Cult magazine,
and
his video.
Him and Parker Stevenson, all they talk about is hard-ons.
Yes.
Their dick, jerking off.
Well,
how many times they jerk off.
Kind of him, because he's kind of the teacher for the guy, and you're almost waiting for like, when is it going to get homo-erotic?
Yeah.
And it never does between those two characters.
Right.
But when I look at him and how he behaves with women, how his sex with women is so casual, I mean, that's very gay. And
I was thinking about that. Is there a line with the flight attendant of that, like, sex with you, like, it's always good, but there's just really nothing there. Yeah. There's kind of like a line
because it's so casual, because it's so casual.
Yeah.
And she tries to make him jealous. She's like, I'm flying to, where does she say, like, Budapest with, or not Budapest, but something where there's a Marrakesh with the king, and then she's like, no, I'm not really. And you can tell he, of course he's a great layer. Are you kidding? It's like she wants to be with him, and it wasn't until, speaking of the Poseidon Adventure, it wasn't until it was only a few years ago that I realized when I'm watching films, I have rarely, if ever, I can give you one example, identified with the male protagonist.
Sure.
I always, as a gay, and it was just me. It was before I knew about gay or anything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I'm telling you, as a 5-year-old, I already identified with Pamela Sue Martin having a crush on a preacher or someone in the church. Shelley Winters already had a weight problem at 5, and felt fat. Carol Lindley, oh come on, what gay kid did not want to be the blonde lead singer of the band? And then look at Blondie, who's my biggest inspiration. So that was already there.
Yeah.
And Stella Stevens, I always kind of felt like the bastard at the family reunion, like I'm sticking out and everyone knows I'm a whore.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have sex for another, 15 years.
I think that's so much of kind of the idea behind this show is, we don't do a lot of straight up gay
movies.
Themed, this is a coming out story, because that's obviously those movies. Do I identify with those as young gay kids?
Except for the one that we did last week.
Last week. But it's just, of course we identify it. It's the representation and all that. But the real idea behind the show is, like you said, watching these movies and identifying with the female characters.
Yeah, and finding those clues. Like, what makes this, like, his wardrobe and, like, the fact that he's got that big mustache. It's he is a gay, physically a gay icon.
Yeah.
And I think, gay guys and daddies, if you were to go into like the Eagle or someplace and be like, hey, what do you think about? Oh, Sam, yeah. And the other thing that I was taken by this movie is, I love that, you know, when you talk about how he was only just recently nominated for an Academy Award, it's like he is a really good actor. And even in this thing, I felt like he really was into the character because if you notice, he's barefoot when he
drives barefoot. I noticed that he
barefoot.
He walks out to his car
out of his asphalt.
He goes to get something to eat, and he comes out and he's barefoot. And I'm just going, this is so 70s because not since Britney Spears walking around. You know, that's something we do in Louisiana. It's like, are you walking around barefoot at the gas station? It's like, come on. But you know, back in the 70s, oh please, I can remember my brother. You know, around May. You know, he'd come in with bare feet. He goes, I'm walking barefoot. I got to get my feet toughened up for summer.
Gotta get that good layer.
When he's jogging, which I think his boss, he's not wearing any shoes.
Yes, with his boss, he's and that's the only time his feet are really dirty. Because that's the other thing is I always look at, you know, because he's a lifeguard. I love the whole tub of water.
I was going to say he's got the bucket at the bottom where of the ramp.
And I'm like, there's something very Jesus that I like about this scene.
Wash your feet before you come up here.
Yeah. So, but really quick, he's always photographed, you know, and Daniel Peachy's a really good director. You know, he did Cocoon and a bunch of shit. But Sam Elliot is always shot like this, where
with
he's
legs
spread with his legs up and his the bottoms of his little toes.
Is that the photo that I sent you yesterday?
Yes, it is. It's it looks he's just in perfect blowjob. It's like you could suck his dick and eat his ass and play with his balls. You know, it's just and again, he's not thinking, you know, because remember a couple of years ago or something, he made some comments about
it was over Power the Dog. I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
I never saw it, so I don't really remember. But it's just his, you know, he's like an old Clint Eastwood type of guy. It's like, and Clint Eastwood, I always found lots of homoeroticism or especially humor. He always had a lot of, and I equate. Yes. Oh my gosh. Equivocal. I equate that somehow with his relationship with Sandra Locke, who I am obsessed with, who was married to her gay best friend from childhood.
Okay.
Her entire career. You know, because her gay best friend, listen, if you ever, the best titled in one of the best Hollywood biographies is hers, and her title of her biography is a takeoff on Clint Eastwood's film The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and it's called The Good, the Bad, and the Very Ugly, which I just think that's just it's almost as good as Judy Carn from Laugh-In, you know, Burt Reynolds' ex-girlfriend. Shall I? I'm laughing on the outside, crying on the inside. I mean, I mean, come on. So those are definite reads, but there's something there that I find that whether he's acknowledging it or he's unaware,
I think Sam Elliott's
there.
Also a type that women love him, obviously.
Guys love him. They want to hang out with him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Gay men love him, obviously, but straight guys love him.
Oh, yeah,
he kind of fits all of those quadrants.
It's a very special kind of
it's also very Burt
persona.
Reynolds, too.
Yeah,
Burt Reynolds in his heyday.
But the thing with Burt Reynolds is Sam, I mean, like I say, Burt Reynolds is funny as hell. So he can kind of like win you over and make you fall in love with him because he's funny. And I would even imagine if you were like a gay guy hanging around Burt Reynolds, he would adore you and would pick at you and just it would be cool. You know, Sam, you know, you get that with him too because like you say, he's always talking about his kids running around with hard-ons. You know, that's why we call him, what is it? Machine Gun. Who I love. And he's like, you know, so, but I always just look at him as he's that guy that if you had a problem with a girl or with anyone, you would come and ask him about it. Because he would sexually know.
He's been there.
He's been there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's so weird, like even the scene, because again, we're talking about female identification. Mm-hmm. I always identified with the Kathleen Quinlan character who is, and she's so,
ingenue.
she's so... So can we talk about her for a little bit?
Let's talk about Kathleen Quinlan.
Are you guys aware? Okay, we all know that remember the famous casting between Carrie and Star Wars where Lucas and De Palma were.
Right.
They were casting both of those at the same time, and they would trade off actors.
Yes,
and all everyone for different roles.
Pool and everything.
Yeah.
Oh shit. So I lost my train of thought here.
Kathleen Quinlan.
Kathleen Quinlan. When I look at American Graffiti, 2 years before that, and that's a movie you can also look at that has. Oh my God! A
Stack
roster of actors
before they were famous.
Yes, who you were going to see either as a regular on 8 is Enough. It was just every TV show. But the one that I think people forget, who's in American Graffiti and who's actually the only one who looks like a real teenager because she is Kathleen Quinlan, and it's her first movie. And she tells this great story. I saw it I guess it was on the special features for American Graffiti, but American Graffiti, there's a dance in the beginning where you kind of get to know everybody. And she and Cindy Williams, who must have been 10 years older than her by that time, are in the bathroom, having a scene in the girls' bathroom. And then they say after they shot that scene, they went and shot some scenes of everyone dancing. And Kathleen said, "Oh my God, we're supposed to be out there." And she grabbed Cindy and was about to run out onto the dance floor. And Cindy grabbed her and was like, No. We are not in this scene. We're in the bathroom now. This is what's happening. Wow. So Kathleen didn't even know at that time. She was like,
it's all done in
you're
order.
right. You're right. And if you go back and look at Kathleen Quinlan in American Graffiti, she's so beautiful and she's so young and she's just gorgeous. Here, she reminds me so much of, and even though she's a little older, of a Jodie Foster or Christy McNichol. Because, and there's also one scene that I noticed where it's during the triathlon
race,
thing, the race that the lifeguards do. She's got a hat on, and if you look at her, she looks like she is a boiled lobster. Her hair is wet, and you can tell they just put that hat on her because they had been shooting all day, and she was hot as fuck. But what it does is it just makes her look, she looks so tomboyish, and her body is so tight and like a gymnast. She's got a really cute butt, and she, her breasts are small and natural, and she's really, really, really beautiful. And you're kind of like, oh my God, I could totally, again, I remember the first guys that I was ever in love with, they all look like Sam Elliot. I still remember this cardiopulmonary guy who worked at the hospital when I was in college, and I was hanging around this group of, gay guys, that you would meet at the local gay bar when you would venture out. I went to a Southern Baptist college too, so it was interesting. But I used to I would wait on his doorstep for him. I was just obsessed with him, and I desired him so much, just like she does Sam Elliot in this. And I can't imagine how absolutely intoxicating fucking him in the lifeguard shack. You know what I mean? I just can't imagine.
So it's interesting with her casting too, because she's very beautiful. She's cute as this teenage character. But I mean, for the 70s California beach kind of,
they didn't go for a blonde
era. They didn't go for a blonde.
Yep.
She got short hair.
Yes. And I think it's because, and it's a testament to the movie. Maybe it's like, how many blondes with big tits do you think that Sam Elliott has fucked on that beach? He's gone through everyone. So when you're looking at he's only 33.
That blew my mind.
Oh my God. I'm 20 years older than that dude.
The 15 high school reunion, I am 4 years,
1960.
4 years older.
So you're thinking this is like the cast of Grease. This is like Danny and Sandy. They're going back to the prom because Grease was 58, Grease 2 was 62. It's very odd.
That's wild when you think about it like that.
And and also thinking about her and the fact that she's a brunette, and they also cast another brunette. They did good with their blondes. They got the blondes on the peripheral. The flight attendant, the girl that loses her top at the beach, and
the girl at the pickup bar.
And the girl, you're right. And the girl at the pickup bar, you're right.
We were very fascinated. We were very fascinated with that bar. It was like a singles bar, but it was sports themed.
Yes, yes. And Ann Archer if we can,
I
for a
mean,
moment.
How stunning is she in this movie?
She's so stunning, but it's one of those things like when I think of her, the epitome of her sexiness and beauty, it's Fatal Attraction.
Yeah, you usually go to Fatal Attraction.
We're 10 years before.
Oh, yeah. Fatal Attraction wasn't
years.
like 87?
Yes,
Yeah.
87, 88. And the thing about Anne Archer is when you look at her back then, it's like she hasn't, it's like there, and I had this problem too. Some people need to grow into their face. You know, her, like you look at her eyebrow, she almost looks like they've got her done up like Cleopatra.
Right.
You know, to where when you look at it after her face has aged, that scene in Fatal Attraction, it's right when you think he's scot-free and the shit's about to hit the fan, but he comes up behind her, and Anne Archer is sitting at her makeup table, and she's just in a pair of panties, and he comes up behind her, and you see her stomach and she's so beautiful and sexy. Here, it's like they've got her hair. It must have been the same people that did Linda Blair's hair in Exorcist 2, because now you got to remember products. Every good product came in the 80s. In the 70s, if you had naturally curly hair like a Linda Blair or probably Anne Archer, I would say, those girls were having to blow, they were putting all kinds of oil treatments, and her hair is really silky and shiny. And I also love that she plays an art dealer on La Cienega, which is fun if you're from LA because nothing's changed. It's still, the same down there. And I love that she's also very Diane von Furstenberg dressed. She's got she's like she's traveled. She's
got a good little wrap
She's
dress.
very fashionable. Yeah. And, they're high school sweethearts if we didn't say that.
Right.
And it's also funny because we get to see Sam Elliott's high school picture, and he doesn't have the mustache. And he really is a nerdy, goofy-looking dude without that
And it
mustache.
looks like they just took a high school photo from Sam Elliot, too.
I think they did that for most of the cast.
I did, and I loved that sequence where, and I almost want to like pause on it because I want to look at all of them, but they did that. I love that little montage where you see the name tag, and it's their high school picture, and then their face.
I want to talk about the era of the movie because we're talking about the class reunion and the whole thing with this movie. And like Scott said earlier on, the plot is a little loosey-goosey. We can explain the plot in 2 sentences. But the thing is, at the end of the day,
Lifeguard Rick.
Lifeguard Rick, he's got a fucking sweet life.
Yeah.
Yes.
A life that I would gladly have now.
A sweet fucking car. He's got a cool little pad. He works
cute little bachelor
on
pad.
the beach. He's
still in
tan.
great
He's got a
shape.
great bod. He's like banging,
Can we talk about his little highlights? Because they did
They
had to do a little frost and tip, but he's got those little orange golden highlights in his dark hair, and he just is so handsome and beautiful.
And a job that he takes pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Too.
He's good at it.
And he's good at
really
it.
good.
But the thing is, it's the mid 70s, and these are all, for all intents and purposes, these are all boomers. We get this one scene with his family where the dad's like, "What are you gonna do with your life? Your younger brother is making $20,000 a year.
His friend wants him to go sell Porsches.
The friend is like,
in the valley.
If you come
Like,
sell
that's a
Porsches
step
with me,
up.
you're
Could
gonna
you
make
imagine?
$50,000 a year. A car salesman." And he goes to the reunion, and he starts kind of getting embarrassed about they're like, "Oh, you look pretty tan. What? You work outside?"
Yeah.
And at first he's like, "Yeah," or "Are you in construction or something?" He's like, "Oh, what?" And he starts making things up. And it's like, we're going into the 80s, which is all about upward mobility,
making money,
and making money. So this is the very beginning of that, right?
But that's what I relate to as a drag queen and as an independent performer who, like I say, I did the Hollywood shuffle where I would, and it's that weird thing of where when I showed up at the gate and, when you would get the side, you'd find out I can't remember what they're even called, the breakdowns. And, you'd get them when you're not supposed to, it's something privileged, but actors have ways. And I remember I would drive to Warner Brothers High for ER, And it is such a hustle that can pay off, but also you just get tired of that hustle. It's the same thing if you had a 9-to-5 hustle, and there's something like when he was going through that reunion and kind of that's how I feel as a drag queen when I have to go back home sometimes. It's like, what do? You were so, and it's like, I don't even want to get, I just want to say, TV and I do theater. Or I'll just say, oh yeah, I do theater, like plays. Or as my mother loved to call him, how's your little show going?
How's your little show?
It's not just darling. Just darling, mama. So yeah, and like I say, I was in New York for a while, and speaking of, what a cat. No, he's not a cad. What do you call? Well, he's a man slut. He's he basically is just, he's an easy guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I worked in the fitness industry for 30, and let me tell you, I've had as many encounters. I'm sure I'm right up there with Wilt Chamberlain, Gene Simmons, Hulk Hogan. Trust me, I taught sometimes 22 classes a week, and it would be at Crunch, Vertical Club, Equinox, every naked penises, and guys on the fly. So you know what I mean? I get it.
Yeah.
But there is, something about that that you're like, other people just don't get your life. Right?
Yeah.
They don't. The opportunities are there, but they're conditioned. And most people need to be, I've learned that most people need to be conditioned. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, when you start looking at like, because, when our rights are all, and men are still making decisions over women's bodies, and they can't even comprehend that they're 2 holes down there and they don't pee and deliver babies out of the same hole. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, they're dumb.
Yeah.
And they just let them get away with it. Like, stupid. My favorite was, but Lindsey Graham surrounded by all these South Carolina women talking about no abortions after. It's like, what do you know, you closeted homosexual? Good God, just insane.
Yeah.
So the 70s is, the fact, it's before AIDS, and it's also another interesting thing is, you saw no red, white, and blue because 1976.
Yeah,
they filmed it in 75 was about to happen. So it is kind of because in Jaws, I do believe that you do see a lot of
there's some bunting.
There's some bunting and stuff that you're like, oh my god, because I remember
Bicentennial,
and everything
huge.
at J.C. Penney's was red, white, and blue. So there are some red, white, and blue Speedos. When they and I'm telling you, he looks damn good.
Oh my god!
And I'm telling you, a tall, lanky guy like him looks so much better in a Speedo because he looks like he's a swimmer. But it's like an Olympic swimmer, but more than like a body. He's just so God, and that hairy chest of
all
his
these guys in this movie though too, like just all the 70s beachgoers. And those like
helmet hair.
Those bodies, the hair.
His hair is beautiful because his hair is actually. It's almost like they cut it because in the 80s, he always had really long hair.
Oh yeah,
movies like Shakedown. Oh, for God,
we love
Mask.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's wonderful, and they're both good.
So
good.
Well, and he's and what I loved about him getting nominated for an Academy Award is I got to see Catherine Ross, which you never see Catherine Ross anymore.
Catherine Ross.
They have been married this entire time.
Look! Did you just see me get chills? I think about how many times they have had sex. And I think of her. Wait, let me do her for you. He's sitting on or maybe she, I can't remember, but I remember just him all big in his tux. And then she was just like she's just like that little kitty cat in her beautiful strapless gown, not a bit of work on her face, that gorgeous long hair of hers, and just like, he's been mine, and he's still mine.
Talk about when those two got together. Just the peak of just beautiful actors from the 70s.
And in the legacy. So anybody watching that loves horror or British horror. 1979, The Legacy, which was another staple. Remember, it's about everyone's drawn to the British castle. We're going to read the will, and then you're all going to die. It's basically like an Agatha Christie movie.
Yeah.
But they play the married couple, and he, of course, does. He's always willing to show his butt off, and his butt looks really beautiful in The Legacy. He also gets into a shower that then turns hot, and he winds up having to break the glass. So. He's also naked and broken glass and wet. So,
do you ever see his butt in this movie? I think that you see a little cheek when he's getting out of the shower.
Yeah, it's like the weird thing. It's like, again, he presents himself, like I say, he's got that stance that is so sexy because his feet are always apart, and you always see the bottoms of his feet and
his crotch.
And his crotch, and sometimes he'll go into a lunge, and you can, but he's got the little bikini panties underneath the shorts, which was
the lining.
You could always be safe, that nothing was going to fall out in the
lining.
70s.
Yeah.
I do want to. Can we go back to Anne Archer? Something else that I kind of love about this period of women in Hollywood is that I always go back with her. She was pretty new back then, but I don't know if you guys, I know if you've seen it. The 1978 Superman, the movie, auditions for Lois Lane. And
sure.
She is one of... Now, if you've ever seen them...
I forgot about those. I've seen them.
I'll get chills again. But from the first moment that Margot Kidder opens her mouth, you're just like, okay, it's her. It's her.
Done.
It's her. Anne Archer, it's Anne Archer, it's Stockard Channing, it's Deborah Raffin, who I also love Deborah Raffin. And I feel like there's one more I'm missing, but none of them they're all wrong.
Sure. They didn't have that spark that Margot has in the role.
And that spunk. And she really got it, but you're thinking, come on, it's just a she's a news reporter. I kind of go back to the Batman thing because I'm obsessed with Sean Young. And the reason I just can't stand the original Batman Returns is my shit, man. That I just love it. I don't like it because I don't buy Kim Basinger she came in late, but I just felt like Vicky Vale is a photojournalist, and I just think of Sean Young with a camera, and I feel like Sean Young would have been like a Lois Lane.
Doing it.
She would have been like, I'm doing it. And all we have with Kim Basinger is the great Kim Basinger screen squeal, which I love, but I like it more in that movie Nadine, Robert Benton movie where the photographer, it's in the 60s or the 50s, and he's got the nude pictures of her, and she's just trying to get her nude pictures back, and then she finds a dead body, and then she screams.
Have you ever seen I think Sean Young does an interview for the DVD for Batman.
Yeah.
And she's just like recalling, like,
she's talking about the horse riding.
Horse riding.
She's like,
and you feel so bad for her. That, like, there was a lot riding on this movie for her career, and it didn't happen.
But it's one of those things where she was in that position at that time where I kind of like to. I almost feel like they cast her and then they probably were like, really, you know what I mean? Because that's how I feel. Yeah. Because if I've really studied a lot of her, how she got the David Lynch movie and Dune and everything, and it's wild because, my God, she was almost Marion Ravenswood in Raiders of the Lost Ark. So she and Harrison Ford were kind of destined or doomed to be together, and she didn't get that part. I love, if you've never seen the footage of her and Tom Selleck, it might just be a photograph. I don't know if there's
have you heard the story about
alternate reality?
Maureen McCormick?
No.
So Maureen McCormick tells a story that she went to go read for Marion Ravenwood, and I think she went in high.
And, stoned out of her mind.
Did you ever read her book?
I have not.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. What?
I think she tells that story.
Yeah, in the book.
Maybe she did. Maybe I forgot. I don't. But the thing that I took away, I grew up on Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island, and The Little Rascals.
Jam Brady.
Yeah. Those are my after school shows, and they're like they're my heart. But when I was reading Maureen McCormick's book, she was wildly addicted to cocaine. Yeah. Now, remember, 1979, she was in Skate Town, USA. So by the time Raiders is coming out in 1981, she's still in the mix, but it's like, she was doing she did a Roger Corman movie with Claudia Jennings and a Sandy Howard film. But this is what she said about cocaine, which I love. And I'm a stoner, but thank God I've never really gotten into hard drugs. But she said, here's how I was with cocaine. It didn't matter if someone brought over the smallest amount or a pound of it. I wasn't leaving the house until it was all gone. And that's a serious. I mean, hiding and not. Yep. Yeah, I can imagine that.
But could you imagine like an alternate reality where Marie McCormick was Marion?
Oh, please. And there was there's so many of them. Like,
what ifs?
Imagine if Deborah Winger would have actually done A League of Their Own, the Lori Petty part and everything.
We talked about that on the show.
Oh yeah, yeah. That movie will make you gay. That was my favorite movie of that year.
She couldn't stand Madonna.
Wasn't going to do it. Just was all over the sheltering sky. And now look at Madonna now and look at Deborah Winger now. I think I'd rather fuck Deborah Winger.
Oh my
God! Look, I'm a Black Widow, Teresa, and also Urban Cowboy. Her as Sissy. Oh, just love.
Yeah.
But Ann Archer. She really, and she went through other kind of odd. She lingered for 10 fucking years until, and then Academy Award nomination for Fatal Attraction. So I think that's wild. There's really, just Parker Stevenson, and he kind of
Parker Stevenson and that hair.
What
hair? Oh my god!
And he's got
mesmerizing.
People are like, I was never attracted to him or Sean Cassidy. His eyes are a little too.
His eyes are a little.
His eyes are too close together. A little close together.
Also, he got to be married to. He got to be married to peak
Kirstie Alley. Yes,
too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine that. Now, I was like I say, Sam Elliot. I was attracted to Sam Elliot. Yeah. I mean, I don't even think I was attracted to John Travolta. It's been great talking about Lifeguard.
I want to talk a little bit though about this movie first starts and the look of it. It's it's 1976.
You get the hippy dippy soundtrack.
That's the beach.
Yeah,
Torrance.
it's just it's down the South Bay.
And you're thinking how they had that one location. There's only where he drives around. That's the only other location.
Could you imagine just like, I mean, did you spend any time in California in the 70s at all?
No.
You were.
We vacationed at the Redneck Riviera and Panama City Beach, Florida.
Just like probably just how easy and chill it was just to drive to the fucking beach in the 70s. It's
amazing.
like now when I drive to like Rogers Beach in Santa Monica, it's like you're not going to be home for like 90 minutes driving home.
No.
Parking, it's just like
I would almost because I take public transportation now. I would take the bus.
Yeah.
Because to me, you wouldn't have to. Number one, you don't have to engage because there's the bus is going to go where the bus goes. You have no say so. Yeah. That's why because I was getting. Listen, I had some instances. I was shot at one time.
Oh my God!
By a dude on a Harley. Where it was insane. Wow. So I feel you. Yeah. It must have been wonderful, and you could smoke a joint.
Mm-hmm. He rolls up to the. I mean, granted, I'm sure his shift starts at sunrise,
very early. Yeah. So he had good parking.
Yeah, because he had the parking lot was empty.
Could leave your top down.
Yeah,
I did look up his car. It is a 1968 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray.
Stingray. Yeah,
mm-hmm. Friend of mine had one.
Cherried out black.
I mean, just amazing.
So it reminds me of a film that could possibly be found on the internet called Pleasure Beach, starring Michael Christopher. This is a pornographic movie.
I was going to say, I've never heard of Pleasure Beach.
But I was just like, oh my God, this looks like Pleasure Beach. It's just these two lifeguards sitting at the lifeguard station. Pleasure Beach was shot on
Catalina, right?
Yeah. So but it has that same opening. Where it's just shots of the beach.
They totally ripped it off.
Ripped it off.
Because he looks like Richard Locke from like the El Paso Wrecking Company and Kansas City mining, those truck driver movies. Yep. So they just replaced him, with I'm surprised they didn't get someone, because Michael Christopher does kind of look like a Parker Stevenson, because he's kind of got the weird blue eyes. But then I always say my favorite porn stars, the one thing that would keep them, I say, from a legit Hollywood career is their little fucked up nose. And he's got, look at his little turned up nose.
He does
it's
have
such a cute nose. But of course, if you look at people's noses trying to judge dick size, that would be someone who does not follow if you have a short nose, you have a short dick, because he had a huge penis.
And he's got that shaggy haircut, that 70s shag that kind of looks a little like Parker.
He looks like he's been wearing a cap. You know what I mean? He's got naturally curly hair, but he looks like he's had a cap on all day.
Yeah. But I mean, I just love this movie just... It's very leisurely paced. The soundtrack is upbeat.
I was going to say, because when you were talking about plotline,
Yeah.
it plays to me even though it's a day in the summer.
Yeah.
You know, I always love a day in the life movie where there's not a lot of plot, but
Yeah.
I'm happy hanging with these
Yeah.
people. And also, if you're someone like me, again, when you have... I don't want to say voyeuristic, but obviously there's something because my character, when I perform on stage, I don't at different nightclubs I'll interact and I'll speak, but when I'm creating a show, I don't ever speak, and I always want the audience to be the voyeur, as if you could have paid, because a lot of my shows are shows within a show, and I usually play a flash dancer because my shows are based around dance comedy and not jokes or anything. But I also like to think that you're also not supposed to be there when you're watching my show. And to me, those are the fans. You know, like I had one guy in Provincetown see my show. And again, Provincetown now in the summer is like Lollapalooza for drag queens because it's all of them.
Yeah.
And they're all there.
Yeah.
And this one photographer friend of mine, he came and he shot a slow motion video of me as Olivia Newton-John as Barbarella. And he wrote, "Don't you ever just want to come to a show and sit back and relax and just watch?"
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. And I think that's why this film is so easy to watch because you're people watching, you're watching the beat. I love the whole scene where there is a man exposing himself, and they're so casual about it. Now, imagine today.
Yeah.
Imagine if there were oh my God.
Like, it feels like Sam Elliot gets this, like...
of course he does, because it's on the beach and you're in those public pleas.
Yep.
And then the fat woman comes out and she goes, "There is a man in the women's..." I was standing right here naked. And I looked over and I saw, and then of course you see that there are now all these young girls in the bathroom. They're like, "What's going on?" And there are these 2 feet. Hey, this is. And then of course the pervert has a brilliant. No, this is a stakeout.
It's a stakeout.
I don't have a badge. Where I'm undercover.
Don't blow my cover.
Do you want to ruin this podcast by? Would you like me to tell you a very creepy story that Alexis Arquette told me once?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Oh,
beyond
absolutely.
creepy, but it has to do with the public restroom down on Venice Beach.
Okay.
In the 70s, because Alexis kind of, you know, if you're a performer and you do drag and everything, even though I only started drag legitimately about 10 years ago. Somehow I'm a legend. Just means I'm old. But we were around each other and we were talking about, the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez, who just terrifying.
Absolutely.
Terrifying.
As soon as if he opens up that mouth and you see those teeth.
God. Because sometimes when you look at him, he's hot.
And
then you're like,
cute.
no,
And then he opens up his mouth and you're like,
he is Satan incarnate. Because he's got those eyes, but he had that beautiful dark. And they also say like he had overwhelmingly... I don't want to say toxic because sometimes body odor is hot.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, you know, could you imagine? I would have been smelling Sam Elliott's pits. Like, can I smell your pits, Rick?
Easy.
Like there was something biologically wrong.
Yeah. And when he was, you know, about to do his thing, you can only imagine how you turned on he must have gotten as a serial killer, you know, breaking into people's, you know, and like, do you smell something? And, oh my God, run! Well, Alexis told me that he goes, I saw that guy. It was something like, we were talking about Richard Ramirez the Night Stalker, and he goes, I had an encounter with him. And I'm like, whoa,
Really?
whoa, whoa.
Oh, my
I'm
God.
like, no. I'm like, wait a minute. Because immediately I started like that. I was like, no, wait a minute, stop. And he goes, I'm not kidding you. He goes, I was probably, like, it was like he was 7 years old or something.
Yeah.
And we were changing clothes. They had gone to the beach, and his kids, they had run in there to put their swimsuits on or something like that.
Yeah.
And he goes, and I looked into the handicapped stall, and he said, there was a guy in there, and he was jacking off. And he said, I remember when he came, you know, it exploded like all over the wall, as he told it. And he goes, and I believe it to this day, it was Richard Ramirez. He goes, because when I saw him and when they caught him, he goes,
He knew the face.
That's that guy.
Yeah.
Because you don't forget a face like that.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, you are just trying to put something in my head that now I'm going to start thinking about, and it's going to fucking disturb me. And he goes, I'm being serious. So
that's crazy because
it just creeps me out.
Everybody who lives in LA or grew up in LA, everybody knows somebody that it's like, oh, well, my uncle lived in the building across the street.
I mean, when you watch that documentary on Netflix, it's just like, oh, this is just surrounding where we're living right now.
Oh, yeah. That was wild.
All of these houses.
Here. But everybody has a story of somebody lived close by, or that's their neighborhood or whatever.
Somebody's friend knew
but it's
one
never,
of the
but it's never
victims. Yeah.
I saw him jerking off in the public restroom.
No, only like your gay friend, your gay friend, oh, but then you go like, the Arquettes, they're an LA family.
Yeah, very well could have been a thing, and that's a story.
Like, what are we going to do with all these fucking kids? They were like sick, Rosanna. Well, Rosanna was already working. Patricia, Patricia, David, Redmond, well, there are 5 total. But it's a summer because it starts out where you meet Kathleen Quinlan, and she's from San Diego, and she's having a time with her parents, because she's 16 or 17, as she says. After they first say, oh, she's probably 15 or 16, she goes, I'm 17.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, great, now Sam Elliot can fuck him, and we can go home in a good mood.
But yet Sam Elliot is one of those like cool guys that he's doing.
He was gentle.
He's doing
her a service.
Yeah,
Let me pop your cherry, darling.
You don't really question it.
Well, good for her. Could you imagine?
I know, right?
Well, but I have to say, like, back when I was with my comedy group, the Nellie Olsons, we, and to this day, I've always wanted to get a cruise ship booking until COVID, and then you're like, fuck those things. I'm not about to. Well, we, in our 25-year career, got one booking on a cruise ship, and my analogy is fucking having Sam Elliot as the lifeguard take your virginity was like this cruise ship. It was the maiden voyage. It was the Serenade of the Seas, which was like a 10-story ship, and we had pulled into port in St. Thomas, and my girlfriend Nora and I were looking over the railing at another cruise ship, and there was this old woman in a bikini laying out on her balcony, and the balcony was rusted out, and she looked at me and she goes, we should have started out on that ship, because now everything is going to be a downgrade.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that her character Wendy is probably still, she fucked every boy her senior year and is just like, I got to get back to the Torrance Beach.
She should have
see if Rick is still there.
She should have started off with old Machine Gun.
Oh God, man!
I mean, give Machine Gun some practice.
Man.
The idea that these boys are just running around the beach and like,
of course they are.
Yeah.
What else were you going to do back then except try and get your rocks off? Or peep on the girl. But the other thing that rang true about this film, and I was also talking because I do a thing at Akbar the last Sunday of every month called Soundtrack Sundays, where I take a different film soundtrack and I create just live numbers, and sometimes it comes out like a show, and sometimes it's just off the wall. But we did Foxes, and I don't know if you guys have ever done Foxes.
I would love to do Foxes.
Yeah, we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, we haven't done it yet.
Foxes is great. I don't know who it would make gay, but the girls are fabulous. But they noted it as the second first teen angst movie.
Oh, sure.
The first being Over the Edge, which is but it's a Canadian film, Over the Edge, with Matt Dillon, and I think Vincent Spano is in that. But that's a Canadian film, and also an indie. Foxes would have been your first studio, and then you got like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then John Hughes.
Yeah, sure.
But before that, there were also the teen sex, but Lifeguard plays like, even though it's about this older man, you still get some teen angst on there because he's got Parker Stevenson and they're doing shenanigans on the beach.
Yeah.
And again, it's something to where, like, when you look at the nudity in this PJ-rated movie, and then you went, all those movies like Porky's or Hard Bodies or Spring Break, or I loved one called California Dreaming with Glynis O'Connor and Dennis Christopher, which has never been released because I think it was an entire Beach Boys soundtrack.
That'll do it.
It's also, we should note that that Paul Williams wrote the theme
he did the main song. Yep.
And what is the song by the girl that is the love theme?
I always think of the song from the prom scene at Carrie.
Oh, yes.
I mean, well, it just has that very hippy-dippy 70s.
The Paul Williams song was reminding me of something, too. And I can't remember, but there was like a chord progression in there. I was like, this sounds like something, but interesting because, he was the go-to guy. He had just done Phantom of Paradise and then was about to do Star is Born.
Paul Williams' career is wild because
phenomenal.
It's never...
And then Smokey and the Bandit movies.
Yeah, I was going to say he's in Smokey and the Bandit.
But like ever since then, it's like, can you imagine
somebody that looks like Paul Williams?
A romantic lead in Phantom. No wonder it wasn't a success, guys.
Paul Williams is this weird sex symbol of the 70s.
Come on. Tiny. Well, I have this one poster of Phantom of the Paradise, which I do really love because Paul Williams is, it's mostly the Phantom and he's got the keyboard and then he's got the girl that's not Jessica Harper that some artist just drew, some random girl, which bothers me because she's also in an outfit that does not appear. But if you look down at the very bottom in the center is the tiniest little Paul Williams and he's in a tux and tails and the posters are brilliant for that movie.
Yeah. I hate that you just reminded me of the Valley Girl poster.
Oh, I just had it on my phone. It's not her at all. It's really not. It's I don't know who she is, but it looks more like Barbara
we decided that it's like a girl that he meets at the punk bar.
Yeah.
There's another weird thing. There was
why is it her?
The roller derby movie called Unholy Rollers, which is Claudia Jennings, which is actually a little better than Kansas City Bomber.
Kansas City Bombers was kind of hard to
Kansas City Bomber with
Raquel Welch.
She's good. I like Mrs. Chancellor from Young and the Restless as the coach. Gene Cooper, Corbin Burnson's mom.
I like her.
Yeah.
I like her houseboat that she lives in.
Oh, and I was going to say, we don't ever really get a sense of where Sam Elliott's apartment is.
No,
We don't get an exterior, or anything.
I mean, so probably...
I was just really quick, I was going to say the other thing, like comparing my life to his life as kind of a single adult man. He had lots of books.
That's what I saw.
And I looked at his apartment. I was like, "Oh, yeah, he's a small apartment, but it's kind of like my apartment. It's like he's not a dumbass. He's got shit that he's into.
He had books there. He had his fake plants
and lots of. But the thing that said teenager, where
posters.
It's like were all the posters that were
endless
all
summer
up.
poster.
It's so good. I just and they were neatly arranged. Like he really appreciated. He liked his posters.
There was another one that looked kind of psychedelic. I was like, "What is it?"
Black light. It was a black light poster.
There was a movie called Liquid Space, and it was a surfing documentary.
Oh,
and that was there.
Cool.
And it's a very like psychedelic, cool looking poster. I was like, "What is that?"
Man.
And I found out it's
and what's that famous
70s?
Speaking of hot surfers, Laird Hamilton. Have you ever gotten a gander at him?
Oh yeah,
God. And one of the Van Patten boys plays one of the surfers.
Oh,
he's got a credit in Lifeguard also.
Okay,
which I always say if anyone's fans of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, they or that franchise. They always Kyle Richards is on it from Lindsay from Watcher.
We were
in the
just
Woods.
watching tonight's episode before you came.
Oh, how wonderful. Well, do not tell me because I've got the double, the never before seen all queued up. Wednesday is a big night, which I love that we're here because that means I get to stay up to 3:00 watching all my stories.
But you can fast forward the commercials.
But I wanted to say 70s you can't swing a dead cat without hitting a Van Patten, whether it's Dick, Nels, Joyce, Vincent, or the one that's in here who was on White Shadow. I can't remember.
Oh, okay. He was on the White,
But, I miss Eileen Davidson because Eileen Davidson of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is married to Vincent Van Patten. And people like to fawn over Kyle's husband, Maurizio, was the hottest guy. And I go, no, ma'am, he is the second because let me tell you something. There are two blonde surfer guys from the 70s who showed up on Real Housewives randomly and are drop dead gorgeous. And one's Vince Van Patten and the other one is freaking Jimmy McNichol. My God. He looks, talk about Lifeguard, like when you know what I mean? When you just think about like, hey, what have you been doing other than maybe smoking pot, drinking? Jimmy showed up with Kim Richards, because when she was on the show, and it was at an autograph convention, and Jimmy was in like a suit, kind of a ill-fitting suit, but he just looked so damn good. He looked so good. Hey,
he would have gone way back with Kim.
Oh yeah,
if he was a child star in the 70s.
Again, they would have all been up for the Parker. They would have, Speaking of, when I said I didn't like Parker or Sean Cassidy, you know who I loved. I was Nancy Drew, honey.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't notice the boys because I was too busy noticing Pamela Sue Martin, who I love from Poseidon.
Her tearaway skirt in Poseidon
her
Adventure.
reveal, the best.
We die at that
Honey.
reveal. We talked a little bit about the triathlon. What?
Oh my God, that thing. Okay, I was going to say, speaking of, because there are several scenes where he does have to save someone, and he does it and I really think it's so hot. When he has to run in there, and he runs, because the thing about that beach also is it was shallow.
Low tide.
The whole tide. So he had to run out, but then when he dives, he would always do those two big butterfly strokes, and then he would just do the regular swimmer's crawl.
He looked like he was doing it right. Like whatever he was doing, that's what lifeguards
But that's what I was going to say
Yeah.
about him, to circle back to, why he wouldn't have been nominated for awards. He's still into that character. Like I say, the fact that he was not wearing shoes anywhere, maybe that was just Sam Elliot, because I could see Sam Elliot also as being that
Just
guy.
walking around barefoot.
But to me, that's like, you know your character.
Yeah.
And also, if you're going to play a lifeguard, you better look like, and he looked like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. What I was reading is that Sam Elliott's parents were lifeguard, and he had also worked as a lifeguard.
Oh, well, then that
which
makes
totally
sense.
makes sense of just why this.
Yeah, that's a shoe-in.
Why this just feels so authentic.
Let me say this, and I don't know how many seasons of Baywatch, they always carried that red thing.
What did they actually do with it?
They never showed anybody get saved with it. In this movie, like 3 people that
you saw how you could use it to defend yourself.
Yes.
How I love when he came out there and was pissed as hell at Kathleen Quinlan for swimming way the fuck out there. When he just said, "Hold on to this and kick your feet," like you know what I mean? Like you're wearing the old guy out, girl. It's like, come on,
you're helping me get your ass to shore.
And then he saves the one guy who was like, "Well, fuck you,
fuck you, I was fine."
And he's like, "Well,
no,
then
you
why'd
weren't.
you grab the float?"
I know.
Like he's
So
like, "Why'd
good.
you grab the float?"
And then he had to save his friend by like hit him, and he was like, told Parker Stevenson, he was like, "Don't ever leave without this, because you might need it to defend yourself
to save little machine gun."
But we have, speaking of Baywatch, since you brought it up, there was one, and there was only one guy. I never watched an episode, but there was one guy that I was so in love with on Baywatch, and it wasn't any of the leads.
Okay.
It was Numi, who was really the Sam Elliot guy. He was that one.
He had the mustache. He was older
He
guy.
had the bald with the mustache.
Great body.
He had an awesome body.
Oh my God, he
so
looked fit,
just like Sam. And he was a big guy with like sexy feet,
And he was kind of balding.
Oh yeah, he was totally bald.
Kind of bald,
totally
but like
bald.
I didn't care.
What's his name again?
Numi
on the show.
Newmie. He was on like the first seasons. Or
I think he was on for
a few seasons.
Yeah, a good minute on Baywatch. Yeah, no, I know exactly who you're talking about, and I too was like,
I was never a Hasselhoff guy because Hasselhoff looked weird to me.
He has skinny legs.
Oh yeah,
chest.
Numi can get it.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is filled with gorgeous dudes. I was trying to talk about that race scene where they're all just like...
Where they're all in the Speedos.
So much of the little side like vignettes of him saving the kids and
That's
the mom
the script.
is just...
That's the script.
Yeah.
All they had to do was they presented an outline.
Yeah.
And they were like, if we can get... And I bet you anything, maybe they had Sam, maybe he had a contract with Paramount. We should go and look at who was releasing his films at the time. Because Catherine was in like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance, and I don't know what year they married, or how, if they were ever a package deal. But Catherine Ross goes back to she's in a Curtis Harrington. I'm a huge Curtis Harrington fan, but I'm trying to remember, when the movie wraps up, he decides he doesn't want to sell Porsches.
Yeah,
he's not. We don't know if he's going with Ann Archer, but
he doesn't really. They leave that kind of ambiguous.
Doesn't really look like it.
Because the Porsche dealer friend says to him, like, you're giving up a lot.
He makes it like he really wants him because he's like, oh, well, then you can start earlier.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I don't want to start at all.
And he tells him, you're giving up a lot with this opportunity. And he's like, I'm giving up more than
my sanity. You know,
but
my
I think
soul.
he thinks that if he doesn't take the job, then Ann Archer's not gonna
of course
want him to move in.
Yeah,
anymore.
she
doesn't want Rick
they have that scene at the thing
she doesn't
where
want Rick the lifeguard. She wants Rick the Porsche salesman.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that scene where he goes into her work.
Well, it's just again, it's that thing. It's
and he
like
yells at that faggy guy.
Yes, it's like, listen, dude, this is how she makes her money. Off of having to suffer guys like this.
Yeah.
You have to suffer them because he's going to hang it up over his bed or his sofa, and he's going to want it 6 inches to the left or 6 inches to the right. And it's like Sam Elliot, again, we see that he reads, and we don't know what, or if they're art books, or surfing books, or mechanic books, or what they are, but he's just not going to be able to deal with her. And he also isn't the type that's, oh, come on. Could you just imagine Sam Elliot at an art opening? He doesn't want to be there. He wants to go home with Catherine. You know what I mean?
And he's cool, like giving the kids swimming lessons and having sandwiches.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Talk about somebody.
I love that scene where he's in the pool, and I'm just going, honey, let him do what he does, and you go make the money at the art gallery. He'll take.
I was going to say, kind of the ideal stay-at-home dad.
Come on, that would be the ideal '70s California life: is to have a gorgeous woman like Ann Archer who works at a gallery. It's like, to me, if they happen to live in, say, Santa Monica or Culver City, that's great because he's coming from Torrance. She's coming from West Hollywood. It's perfect.
Right in the middle.
It's perfect. Or he could come pick her, you know what I mean? It's like he could come pick her up at sundown.
It's that thing with how he was feeling at the reunion, and it's that thing where during the race, how he was like, oh, you're gonna anchor the relay race, and they're like, Parker Stevenson like swims on his college team, and he's like, well, that idiot didn't tell me that. He should be anchor, obviously, and then he's like slows them all down. He puts them in last place.
Yes.
And so this is where he's just like, oh, I'm getting up there. This is very dated. I feel like nowadays, 15-year anniversary sounds like a lot, but I feel like in 1976. Being 30
it was.
years.
Listen, it's a miracle he wasn't a chain smoker.
Exactly. Yeah.
He
or
also
an
has
alcoholic.
that. It's important in that scene where he's choking on the water.
Yeah.
And of course, with the worst timing as we all had at her age, she's Kathleen Quinlan's character is just trying to make. She goes, "Good job, put her there," and. That's that moment where you're going, please don't, which I would. I would have been like, fuck off. And then again, would have broken that girl's heart, and she would be still thinking about when the lifeguard told her to fuck off 30 years later. And he doesn't do it. You know what I mean? But it's like, pick up the cues. Now it's not the time. This guy, it's really, kind of sad.
So, it's so interesting how times, like, I don't know, just
like what was
culturally,
what was 33 years old like as opposed to 33-year-olds now. Back in the 70s.
But remember how everyone was like, oh my God, all the people in Greece are playing high school students and they're in their 30s. Well, high school students, when I would look at my mom's yearbook, they looked like they were in their 30s because the women just had the sharp red lipstick, the severe brow, and these, again, there were no hair products to make you look, unless you were a Hollywood movie star and you saw what they went through, And so, like you say, in the 70s, now they're looking back in the 80s and now they're saying that, all of us look like we're in our 30s, and it's just because now you can color your hair pink and blue, and no one gives a second glance. The other thing that I identify with that character, and here's why I think, and it's my excuse for you maybe not getting in pursuing relationships or someone to settle down with, or I'm comfortable being alone, and I'm comfortable with my stuff, and I feel like he's lived his loner life again, like I say, a loner life, like in the fitness industry, is not alone. You have lots of, and it's they're fun. And like I say, he's screwing all these people, and so he gets nurtured.
Yeah.
You know, is he going to be totally happy? Well, with himself, yeah, but you can't compare his life because a lot of people just, again, they've conditioned themselves like, nope, I want a family, I want a kid. And it's like, not everyone was meant to have kids.
Yeah, but I just think it was very interesting watching the movie because I think Rick is presented as this person that is just living on the fringe.
Yeah.
You know, he's just not like your typical guy. He's giving up this life that anybody would like jump at the chance to get. And I feel like now, today's sensibilities, more people are apt to do something that they love over the father saying, I've worked at this company for 25 years and I'm this close to getting canned, losing my pension. What the fuck for? I don't know anybody that's worked anywhere for 25 years anymore. That's not like our parents.
Well, it's also that thing is like, you know, he had that scene where he's jogging with his boss. So it's not like he can't age out. And it's like, obviously he's a trustworthy guy and he's been loyal and he says his money is fine. So I don't see why it's like, you know, they have to have, you know, desk jobs or business. Where
he
you
even
have
said
to go
it pays
around.
pretty good.
And he
He's
even
like,
said when he was doing his interview with the Porsche dealer that he talks to more people out on the beach and just makes more connections than any of them do selling like fucking hawking fucking Porsches.
And there's also
on a lot.
There's also that little kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a little tea bag that drifts in the beginning, in the middle of the end, and it's the old guy jogging on the beach.
Love.
And he kind of is just like, you know, you're still going to do that? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to do this as long as I can do it.
Yeah.
And hopefully when I can't do it is because I've died, you know? And I, you know, again, you know, I was having, like I say, my dad passed several years ago, and we have to figure out what to do with my mom. And, you know, we're Irish, so I'm like, she's going to live to 100. She's 91 now. And we just like, you know, she's not going to be around. And I'm going, she is going to be around for at least another 10 years, guys. She can still inflict a lot of fucking pain in the last 10 years. And, so it's like I think about that mortality and I think, you know, I still wouldn't have changed anything. You know, I have no savings. My brother also is someone who's like, he was vice president of a building construction firm in Houston, Texas. He had a huge house, immediately got transferred. They built it ground up. Immediately got transferred to San Antonio. Had to sell the house. Luckily, they sold it with it. But, you know, he's basically like, I'm starting over from scratch again, and all I care about is the grandkids I have now. And he's like, John, you know, he's like, Connie, what are you doing? You know, do you have anything? And I'm like, no, I have nothing saved. I'm waiting for, you know, mom to die and, you know, solve our problems. You know, but it's just that thing of like, I can't even wrap my head around the future because I've always taken life day by day. I have things to look forward to and I love creating and stuff and that makes me happy. Those are my children, you know, that's my family or my shows and everything, you know. So I identify with him. He's a loner. He I
was going to say that Sam Elliott's character really speaks to kind of just the lives of gay men in the 70s and probably Los Angeles. The family was not really on the table. I mean, you could have relationships and have a steady boyfriend, but for the most part, you just like...
And people looked down on you.
You had fun and fucked around.
Yeah.
And you just really appreciated just kind of being... at that time, separate from your family and just doing your own thing.
Yeah. Well, and discovering yourself. You know, that was my thing is when I first got out of college, because I went to a Southern Baptist college, you know, my best girlfriend and I were always like, we're going to move to New York. We're going to rock band and we're going to do it. And I found myself in Dallas, Texas for a few years. And then I got a call out of the blue. She's like, are you ever going to move to New York? You know, do you still want to do that? And I'm like, I do. And it was just like you get lost because it's like I had to figure out who the hell. Like, are you really are you really not? You're not going to get married. You're not doing. Because down. I mean, every time you come home, it's like, have you got a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Like it's like shut the fuck up. Can we stop this facade? And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, that fakery that we have to put on to make other people comfortable. It's exhausting. So I think that's also that it is such a weight off of a gay person's shoulders if you're from a family, like certain families that we're from that are conservative and just didn't know any gay people, so they can't imagine you ever having a positive life, or a decent life, or you're not somehow weird in some way, which is it's so odd. I want to say one other thing that I noticed about watching the movie. So, I noticed when the flight attendant walks through the door, he's just come back from lifeguarding all day, and they kiss a little bit, and then she kicks off her shoes and she's like, I feel like I've been like she's like for the past week, and she's like, I'm gonna take a shower. So she gets in the shower to shower off, and then he kind of pops her on the ass, and she doesn't really get to shower. He never took a shower.
No.
So that first sex scene, she kind of got a shower because she's the dirty flight attendant.
Yeah.
And then he's
got a whole day at the beach.
At the beach. Yep. Can you imagine how gritty and sandy? I mean, again,
also
I can only imagine how delicious he tasted because he'd be salty. Who knew we were going to eat, seaweed, those seaweed snacks? And I'm like,
and he's like exfoliating her with all the sand on
and the
left
bed.
on him.
Can you imagine the sand and the folds of the sheets on the bed? Too much.
Oh man,
I do want to go and check out her Playmate of the Year.
Yeah, I was looking at. I was googling photos of it, and it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, I bet she probably was still with the big boofy hair and everything.
Oh yeah,
because Claudia Jennings, I believe, was 72 Playmate of the Year. Okay. Which I always say, if you can Google image the. Because when they get Playmate of the Year, they win all these prizes and they pose. And you've got to see each Playmate of the Year's photo next to the car that she got that year.
Ooh.
Claudia Jennings is Dorothy Stratton's is one of the and Claudia Jennings is just so cute because she got a little pink convertible, but they're all really fly cars, like cool shit, and it's fun. So it'll be interesting to go back and see what her car photo is like. Also,
we'll have to look it up.
Very fun.
Yeah. But Lifeguard is. It's just fun.
It's a fun time capsule.
Yeah, it is definitely a time capsule.
It is a fun time capsule of Los Angeles in the 70s.
But it's eye candy. It's got a fun soundtrack. It's got a great beat, and you can dance to it.
They don't
and it's pervy. It's pervy. Nowadays, it's pervy. It's like the dude that's exposing it. Okay, the way he's doing it. It's so stupid. I mean, do we have time to just quickly?
Yeah.
So it's a dude who's like, again, looks like Ted Knight. He's dressed like he came from the golf course, like Caddyshack. And he goes up there and he just unzips his pants. You don't see anything, but you get that he's pulled something out. Yeah. And then he carries this.
I thought he was just going to take a piss on the beach.
Yeah.
I was like,
I did too.
I did too. Looks like he's taking a leak.
Yes, he's taking a leak. But then he puts is it
like a coat?
Yeah,
just
coat in
over
front of it, and he just walks up to these ladies and they shoot him from behind and he's like, what's up, ladies? And he removes his hands and the ladies are like, oh my God. But then he goes up to a bunch of like teenage girls and boys or something and they're like, and then he makes Parker Stevenson go, so I also kind of love that about
and I love
his character is he's making the kid do all this stuff
but
that
I like
really
that the kid,
doesn't want to do.
But I like that Parker Stevenson comes back and he's just like, I
didn't do it
because he looks too much like my dad.
My dad.
Which is so, again,
I mean, you didn't get shit like that in Licorice Pizza.
No.
But yeah, you're right. When it did happen, it was just like, hey, Parker Stevenson, go tell him to stop.
Exactly.
Like, this guy's showing his dick
today,
to like random people.
Today he would be thrown in jail
and I love
immediately.
Sam Elliott just being like, ma'am, do you want me to call the cops?
But it's kind of, again, I'm...
like,
do you want me to?
Do you want me to call the cops?
Because I will.
Because I will.
Like, oh, no. Just make him stop. It's like, what? Crazy. So this movie is available on Amazon Prime.
It was just added to Prime this week.
Oh, wonderful! They must have known.
I was looking it up, and it was not there. And then all of a sudden, it showed up.
Well, you can also probably go on Amazon and buy a hard copy for probably less than $10. I'm sure
absolutely.
because
It's
those
$5
Paramount
in the iTunes store.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you
can
go.
stream it for $5. You can watch it if you have Amazon Prime.
But I think it's worth the price of admission to just get it because Kathleen Quinlan and he are very, very cozy on the cover, and it's I love that. I love everything about this movie. I really, really do.
Absolutely.
Sam Elliott, they don't make him like that anymore.
He's still he's still made.
He's
listen,
still around.
he's so gorgeous. Look,
absolutely.
he's it. He's it. You know, in some of his other movies, you know, he didn't do a lot of big movies, but you know, he was in Roadhouse.
I was going to say Roadhouse.
What else? You know, God, he
Roadhouse,
just,
Mask.
Mask. He was in a film with Peter Weller called Shakedown. He was in. I mean, is it the Whoopi Goldberg movie? He's the male lead in a Whoopi. It's not Burglar. She did another one.
It's not Burglar. So it's
Thing of Beauty.
Fatal Beauty. He is the male lead in Fatal Beauty. You're right.
Yeah. Because again, you got to think, and I think maybe they were even romantic in the movie. You know, like you know, because when you think about who you're going to pair as a romantic lead with Whoopi Goldberg, it's like, wow, Sam Elliott, it could really work. You know,
Scott Kent,
Jonathan Pryce, and Jumping Jack Flash. Flash
oh
you can't.
God, yeah.
Yep.
Scott, can you think of his most known for on
Sam
IMDb?
Elliott?
Okay, so I'm sure that
the four
that come up on IMDb. I'm sure that the Big Lebowski is there.
Oh, he's in that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I never saw.
Big character in
I
the Big Lebowski.
I never saw
Yep.
Big Lebowski.
He kind of narrates the movie.
Oh.
I'm sure Star is Born is there.
Yeah.
So we got two. This is where it gets tricky. I don't think...
There's one on here you're not going to get.
I would love to bring up my favorite, which was a blockbuster TV movie that I watched only a couple of months ago because I got into YouTube, you know, because everything's on YouTube, which I'm sure Lifeguard is too. He's in a film with Farrah Fawcett and Catherine Ross called Murder in Texas.
Okay.
And it, look, I just got chills. He plays a very, very good surgeon in the film, and it's set in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
Farrah is his long-suffering wife.
Farrah had like a whole string of banger TV movies.
Listen. I've become really obsessed, you know, especially since she's gone, of getting everything. Because, you know, people forget she was in Myra Breckenridge, for God's sakes. And as a lesbian. Logan's Run, she's my favorite, because that's when, you know, I didn't even know about Charlie's Angels as a kid until I started hanging out with the sixth grade girls, Catherine Cangialetti, the only Italian. They're the two brothers, the Cangialetti brothers next door. Only two Italians I knew. But Catherine, I remember we were hanging out, and I remember she was also the first girl that got boobs in our neighborhood, and all of us little boys were always looking down her shirt, trying to look at her nipples. And I remember we were hanging out. We were sitting on top of her dad's car, and she goes, "What are you going to watch on TV tonight?" And I go, "I don't know." Or I said something, and she goes, "You're not going to watch Charlie's Angels?" And I was like, "What's Charlie's Angels?" She explained, and immediately hooked on Farrah Fawcett. You know, I believe Murder in Texas was 1980. Does it say, or 79?
81.
Okay, 81. See, this was after every one of her three features flopped. Somebody Killed Her Husband with Jeff Bridges in 79, which has still not been released, which, you know, Farrah Fawcett, okay, I'll get back to it. Then Sunburn in 1980, and then Saturn in 81. So this was kind of a downgrade for her. Because the other thing that's interesting about this movie, she plays tennis, which I love when they make Farrah athletic, because she is athletic.
Yeah.
And she has a ponytail. You could tell she did not want to do the hair. So her hair's in a ponytail, and she smokes cigarettes the whole movie. But something happens to her, and then Sam Elliott carries on with Catherine Ross, and then Catherine Ross starts figuring things out, and it becomes this guy. Maybe he killed him, maybe he fakes his death, and then she shows up. It's freaky and spooky, and it's very, very good.
Is Roadhouse one of them?
Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're 3 for 4.
One more.
Yeah.
What's the year of the last one?
2017.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even know what.
What did he do after?
Yeah.
I mean, A Star Is Born was 2018.
2017 is
cowboy movie.
I
Western.
don't know if it's a cow. I mean, is it?
It just seems like he only did westerns. All right, what is it?
Yeah, Catherine Ross is in it.
Oh,
It's called The Hero.
what?
Here, I've never heard of this
Never.
movie.
Yeah,
Who?
Nick Offerman.
Oh.
Laura Prepon, Kristen Ritter.
Oh, wow.
Catherine Ross.
That's one of the
Okay.
top 4
Ali Wong.
movies.
Yeah, it's
I've never even heard of it.
directed by Brett Haley. I don't know
That's
why
strange.
it's in his top 4 most known for.
That should be removed.
That's very
immediately.
interesting. Yeah, IMDb sometimes is a little cuckoo.
The algorithm
With the
is
top
You know,
four.
now they get it to where, hey, we need everyone in the cast to go and write a positive review on Amazon.
Right,
Could you
yeah.
please-
Oh
and
my
it's like,
God.
okay, guys, stop giving your movie good reviews when it's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Maybe it's because there's a lot of people in it.
He also did.
Cameron Esposito.
He did an early TV movie called Aspen, which is has a really good cast: Michelle Phillips, Jessica Harper. It's not that good because it's if you go back and look at like even there was a Harold Robbins one with Leslie Ann Warren called like 79 Park Avenue. It wasn't until they got into like Hollywood Wives,
Sure.
where they or where they really amped up the fun, sex, crazy. So some of the earlier TV miniseries events, even though it may involve like someone was raped and they thought she was dead, but she survived and now she's, come back. They're not as salacious or fun yet. So they can be somewhat boring, but he's not. I can't think of I know I'm missing stuff.
Yeah,
just start from 78 and start.
Is that the
just
cover that you have?
gorgeous? Yeah, I love that. I just think that's such a beautiful
good cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you notice how her hair has grown out.
It is
So it's
longer,
like-
right? Yeah.
And he's got his regular dark hair.
Oh, we did read that it was shot in early 75 and kind of held.
So they
held for
probably
a
got
while.
those stills in like 77
Yeah.
around when they
Yeah.
released the movie.
Yeah. So interesting.
Love Connie, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
this
coming.
was so much fun.
So we always go to Akbar for happy hour. We always see on the big wall your monthly show there.
Yeah, you talked about your Sunday show.
You talked about your Sunday show. You do that every month.
Yes, last Sunday of every month. I love that they printed out album size, because that takes a lot. You'd have to go to Kinko's and get a special, that would have cost money. And I'm like,
true.
oh, how fancy. This month I'm doing I don't know when this is going to air, but I'm just going to wrap all 4 Olivia Newton-John movies into one because she was my original
It's going to be Grease, Xanadu, and
Come on, homosexuals.
What's the third?
Well,
He
there's
said
4.
4.
I'll give you the years.
So, Travolta.
Yeah.
It's
83.
two of a kind.
Should have been
Yeah.
called Twist of Fate.
Twist of
because that
Fate,
was the
'cause that's
song.
that's what the song
and the
is,
movie
yeah.
is more about a Twist of Fate because they get to relive
Twist of
their
Fate's
lives.
a movie that you can't find streaming anymore.
Oh, really?
Because I feel like all of my friends and I searched it to watch it last month.
Two
and
of a Kind.
It
You
is
mean
not.
Two of a Kind, yeah,
it
yeah.
is
Weird.
not available for a digital rental.
Well, it is
Lame.
on DVD because I
Yes.
did buy a hard copy. Now, believe it or not, Grease was not her first movie,
No.
and the reason that
She always talks about her flop movie from Australia. What is
Yes.
that?
It's a wonderful little movie. I think it's UK. Maybe I think it's UK because the producers check this out. Well, it's called Tomorrow. Toomorrow.
Okay.
And did you ever see the movie called Rock and Rule? Which is
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, we were
animated?
Just,
Yeah.
we were just
Oh.
talking about that.
How
on,
wonderful!
on Keep It Weird.
To me,
Yep.
it is like an early version of that movie because it's about these sci-fi aliens who are
Okay.
searching for the perfect sound because they compose music, and of course, it sounds like aliens. It's all techno and it's weird and steely and abrasive. And then all of a sudden, oh my God, I'll start getting emotional if I start talking about her. I don't know. They're flying around the universe and they're listening to the world or something, and then they hear Olivia Newton-John singing, and all of a sudden you get pinpointed down, and it's like a college campus, and Olivia Newton-John, they're all waking up, and she's singing the song to all these boys who you find out are in her band. And she's not even the lead singer of the band. She's just kind of the pretty girl that kind of co-sings lead. But it was produced, check this out, by Don Kirshner's rock concert, which was like the midnight special.
Yeah.
I think it's Don Kirshner, not Bert Sugarman. And Albert Broccoli's co-producer who did the James Bond films.
Oh,
so
sure.
it's like a movie musical that was half Midnight Special, half James Bond. It has a soundtrack, and it was in 1970, and she was horrified. I actually met her one time, and it was after the screening of Tomorrow at the Cinematheque. And I'd also run into a friend of mine who knew me from my comedy group. This would have been 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he was friends with Del Shores. And I think she was doing Sordid Lives at that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he was with her, and she was lovely. I mean, will shake your hand and look you in the eye. And I grew up with her my entire life because I would stay on the farm with my sister when she was pregnant and newly married, and we would listen to Let Me Be There. That was the first song I ever sang in public. I had that 8-track, If You Love Me, Let You Know. Have You Never Been Mellow? And let me tell you, I remember walking out of a movie matinee, and I remember looking at the coming attractions and seeing Grease and going, Olivia Newton-John is in a movie? I couldn't believe it. And that summer, I'm telling you, I counted, there were only 13 weeks in the summer. Every Saturday that summer, I saw Grease.
Oh, wow.
It never left the theater.
That's awesome.
It's a twin theater.
I love it.
Meaning, maybe I do
movie.
believe at one point they were just playing Grease for matinees.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, I made a note of it, 13, and I remember I would keep that record. I was like, what movie have I seen more than Grease? Because even when it started coming on, like everyone says, if it's on TV, you just
watch it. You have to dip in at least for a few minutes to watch it.
And there is this big debate, like, oh, Grease 2. It's like, no, you can't even compare the two. Mm-hmm. It's no shade on anyone.
Grease 2 is fun in its own ways.
It's fun, but you can't. But listen, I originally was going to do Soundtrack Sundays as side 1 would be Grease, and side 2, meaning the second show, which they're both like little 30-minute shows, would be Grease 2. You can't pull apart that soundtrack.
Oh, no, yeah.
There is nothing for drag queens to do. I had the drag queen... Prowlin' is a great song. The opening number is great in Grease 2. Yeah. Back to School. It's not as good as... Because let me tell you, Grease by Frankie Valli... It was written by Barry Gibb. Sorry, Grease 2. All of the songs in Grease 2 were written by the guys that did Grease, the musical, the Broadway musical. The reason Grease is far superior and will always be superior than Grease 2, even though it didn't critically get any better reviews than Grease 2 got, but it's because John Farrar, Olivia Newton-John's songwriter, wrote "You're the One That I Want" and wrote "Hopelessly Devoted to You."
It's those Olivia Newton-John vocals
and the Barry Gibb again. Frankie Valli. You could have. John Travolta could have sang Grease, but they were smart to have Frankie Valli come in there and do it. And then they had Frankie Avalon doing Beauty. You know what I mean? So they were very smart, whereas I love seeing Connie Stevens, but they didn't go there with the old guest stars like they did. And also, look, the finale of Grease is set at a big carnival on the football field. Okay, our football coach would have never had a car. Like, turn my football field, I'll kill you! And the thing about it, Grease 2's finale is an above-ground swimming pool at the Rockahula Luau. It's it's the biggest limp dick ending. Yeah, there is weird. No We Go Together, but there's Will... And it's just like, and then you have Michelle Pfeiffer in this gorgeous dress, but you didn't get to see her because you had her sitting down in a tiki with a...
You're going to have to take this up with Drew Droege. He came on.
Oh, well, but listen, I have to I fight with all millennials on it. It's like, it's because you're a little younger than me, and it's why I'll never agree with you, because when I was in the 6th grade for the entire summer of 1978, I didn't see many of my classmates, even though we were from a small town, but when we all got back together on the playground, we were acting out, so, Grease 2 was not in the theaters.
Yeah.
So then it was more about, what did you rent? Let's rent Grease 2. It's not the same experience as seeing it in the film. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, Grease has the incredible animated opening credits, which
we love it.
That just seeing that and seeing Rizzo put the turtleneck sweater on and then her neck goes on.
Sandy getting out of bed.
Oh, with the little nightingales
stunning.
and the little birds. And the thing is you could see through again. You also had the mooning. We got to see a little, and there were all these jokes about. I did not get any of the condom jokes. Like he broke.
Oh yeah,
I've had it since I was in 7th grade. I'm like, what broke? And you know what I mean. And then you've got that. Oh God, like. No one can sing in Grease 2, including Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
I mean, no flies on Michelle Pfeiffer. Listen, Debbie Harry was originally considered for Grease 2. I mean, think about it. Debbie was almost 40 back. You know what I mean? It's like, imagine that. And Cool Rider is fantastic. It's a great song, but there just wasn't any song that you could even release as a single, even though I think they did release Prowlin' and the Four Tops song Back to School.
Okay.
But then there's also that really awful Let's Do It for Our Country, which is so shrill. And why they had Maureen Teefy, who's wonderful. She had just come off Grease, so it's almost like, let's make her look good.
Yeah,
she's kind of a joke with the memories. And now they're going to, let's do it for our country. Our country. It's just nails on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
And then you don't get... The Pink Ladies aren't even fleshed out like poor Rhonda. She just has a couple of nose jokes, and that's it. It's like the thing that I loved about the original Pink Ladies is you got them all, and you kind of, if you didn't get who they all were in Summer Nights, by the time we're at Look at Me, I'm Sandra Dee, Jan's the fat one who's going to eat, because I love everything is like, even like, I love the scene where it's like, well, we're seniors now. That's well, here we are again. Yeah, but this time we're seniors and we're going to rule the school. And then Marty, Dinah Manoff, who is the lover, which I loved. I loved Grease Live, by the way, and I love that they cast Keke Palmer, as Marty, because Marty's the one that had
forgot about that.
Yes,
Palmer.
Yes,
Marty
and they gave her back her song, and she had. Remember, Marty's character had all the soldiers in the Korean War.
Korea.
Don't sweat it, honey. Take one of mine. You're dating a Korean. Ew. But I love the scene when they go, "We're going to rule the school," and then Marty looks over and she goes, "Real class, Jan," and Jan has opened up an Oreo and is eating the filling. And, and then she's got the Twinkies, and then she's like, "Oh, real class, Jan, Twinkies and wine says right here it is a dessert wine." See, there's also, you can't really quote, there are no good quotes from Grease, too, because the writing is just not as good. It's like, you can't, the story's the same. They can try and make it better by saying it's a feminist version. I'm it's just the roles are reversed. I'm sorry. No. We're talking about Lifeguard, and you got me off.
So what is the fourth Olivia movie?
The fourth Olivia movie is Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay. So it's Tomorrow in 1970. She was so horrified by the experience. I think they also wanted her to do a nude scene or take her top off, and they said she was crying. And it's like, you don't ask Olivia to show her breasts. That's just wrong. But she was so horrified. The first people that they cast, the original cast for Grease was Henry Winkler and Marie Osmond.
Oh my goodness!
So they were going for a brunette,
wow.
And it wasn't until, have you ever seen the Robert Stigwood documentary? Okay, you must see it. He's the gay man. We've
seen the
Sergeant
Alan Carr
Pepper
documentary.
I've never seen the Alan Carr one. Jeffrey, he's wonderful. Jeffrey Schwartz that does all those great documentaries.
Yeah.
Automat pictures, I think. Wait, who were you just saying? Oh, yeah, it wasn't until it was Henry Winkler and Marie Osmond, and then Robert Stigwood did a 3-picture deal with John Travolta because they knew he was, for Saturday Night Fever, and then Grease had been floating around, so they were like, Paramount, that's where it was all set up, and then the third, I believe, was the Lily Tom, which was again, but I think that could have been Robert Stigwood because he didn't do Urban Cowboy.
Okay, but
I always like to think, aside from that weird Lily Tomlin, like the gay guy and the lesbian in the hot tub, it's so strange. But yeah, and I think that was also directed by Randall Kleiser, who directed Grease, possibly.
Okay.
But Travolta was yes. You know what? Maybe I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wrong. who directed Moment by Moment? You should look that up before we leave. But it was John that, really loved Olivia and wanted her. And she was like, I'm not about to do it. And what's interesting, she demanded a screen test, and they were like, "You're fantastic." Oh, wow. And the thing is what's funny is after the flop that was Two of a Kind, it's interesting. What I love about her is she was like, "Okay, I did that. I'm done." Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't get her back in film until like Del Shores was like, "Hey, come do this." And she did other little TV things. Like I think she did a Christmas TV movie one time. Mm-hmm, so she would do things in here, but there was some reason. Whether like maybe they donated $100,000 to a charity, you know what I mean? Like, but I respect her as someone who wouldn't be like, I'm a hit singer. I'm going to run out and do every. And it's like, no. If that's not your thing, it's not fun.
Yeah.
Same thing with Lifeguard. If it's not your thing that you want to sell cars, don't sell cars.
I'm not going to do it.
Just sit out and stay tan.
All right. So, listeners, if you're in the LA area, we can head over to Akbar on the last Sunday of the month.
We definitely need to come by.
I know, we haven't done it yet. We've been doing happy hours ever since we moved to East Hollywood. We're so close now.
Well, the doors open. My doors open at 7 on Sunday, and really the bar is very quiet at that time.
Oh, cool.
So do a little Sunday happy hour. Or if you guys are up for it, you can start out at the Eagle.
Right.
And you can walk down and maybe run into Hot Dog.
Go right to the beer bus, go to Hot Dog, see all the Mario strippers, and then go right to Akbar.
Get all turned on by all of that good stuff.
I think you got to start at Hot Dog because there's a long line.
But here's the thing. I think there are hot dogs at Hot Dog, but I think the grilling might be better at the Eagle, and I bet they like to eat more than the skinny people at Hot Dog.
That is absolutely true.
Although I've noticed since I've hosted Hot Dog a couple of times, man, the men have great legs. I just keep seeing really gorgeous legs on guys.
Mario dresses all of the men.
He does. He does a great job. So wind up at Akbar, and you can get there at 7. If you get there at 7, I just kind of chill with everyone, and then we usually start the show around 8:15. No one shows up until the last fucking minute. However, I just have this feeling that we might have a really good turnout. But Grace Jones is going to get some of our homosexual audience, but because she's doing the bowl that night.
Sure. Wow.
But Olivia's going to be great. And then in October, I think I'm going to do like the best of horror.
Cool.
And do like that. And then I'm kind of got a bug to do a solo version of the Showgirls soundtrack with me as Nomi Malone. And I'm just going to act out the whole movie from hitchhiking to playing the silver dollars to chill with the guy at the switch.
Are you going to do the Prince song at the Cheetah?
See, that's the thing. Is that I can go back and I can add in any song I want to. Like for Olivia Newton-John, I specifically chose her version of You Made Me Love You from Xanadu, which you only hear when Gene Kelly is talking over it in the movie before we go into Whenever You're Away From Me. Because there were 4 songs from the Xanadu soundtrack that did not make the album, but they are the B-sides to the 4 singles. Did you know that?
No.
Magic, the single Magic is backed with that song, Fool, wherever you go, you're a mood. I don't know the words. And then, she's a rock star, and then she turns, I'm sure I should pass along, lay down. She's country, so that's on that. I'm Alive is backed with Drum Dreams, which Drum Dreams is that insane drum. Bum, bum, ba-da-na, ho, Xanadu. That's on there. Whenever you're, You Made Me Love You, I believe is the flip side to either Xanadu or Suddenly with Cliff Richard. And then there's one more. Maybe there's one other song that didn't make the cut, but yeah, I'm fascinated. Xanadu should have been a double album. There is something called the Mount Olympus version of Xanadu, which also has some demos of the ELO.
I mean, ELO has that on one of their best of, is that they have a demo of Xanadu.
I love their version of Xanadu is so sweet. Yeah. Do you know what's sad is when I promote, I try to use the soundtrack songs. You can't. They're not streaming. So I know that now that she's died, they are going to rape that catalog for every penny. And they did a great version of Physical 40th anniversary, so here's to her. Back in the 70s, she was releasing. They made you release 2 albums a year.
Oh, yeah.
So she's got an amazing,
Prolific.
very prolific, and
Yeah.
they really should re-release and remaster all her stuff. There is a Japanese box set from 10 years ago that did it, but they need to do it with
Yeah.
all the the extended versions of the 80s stuff.
Yeah,
It'd be great.
absolutely. Okay, so that's coming up soon. That's going to be a lot of fun. We'll definitely be there for that.
Yeah.
We want to see the October
Yeah,
horror.
Yeah.
one
Horror
as
would be
well.
great.
And tell our listeners where they can find you on Instagram.
I'm at Real Love Connie. Real Love Connie. And I'm really mostly on Instagram.
This was a lot
Connie,
of fun.
thank you so much.
I had a
oh my
blast.
God.
Is it midnight yet?
I know.
I know,
seriously.
right?
The last time I did a podcast, it was 9 hours later. I kid you not. And I have a feeling we could go off.
I mean,
and
we
talk.
probably could keep talking.
I
about
mean,
this for
I am
a
sitting on the
long
couch
time.
next to the Bend and Snap works every time.
Well, hey, if anybody out there is
Cinema history right there.
If you're doing Romanticon, if they ever do I don't know what
could get a booth.
What if romantic comedies? What is legal?
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing like John Hughes-a-con
Yeah,
where it's
rom-com
comedies?
con.
Because I really want to sign.
I mean,
I
it's
have
just
got
right-
so
it's
many
just
old
right there.
headshots
Right
still
there in a headshot.
in my
Works-
kitchen.
works every
works
time.
every time.
Yep.
$5.
Okay.
Here, it's free.
So, any quick stories of what that scene was? Was it like?
Oh yeah,
What was
I
that
have-
scene like to shoot?
I have great stories. Well, okay. The first thing is when I showed up on set, I had driven my 280ZX and it was out in like Monroeville or someplace.
Yeah.
And as I pulled into the where the actors were supposed to go,
And-
I remember this was back in the day before maps. I
For
had to look at-
listeners, we're talking about Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde,
Yeah.
yes. And this was 2001, where you still had to get a map, the Thomas Guide, and figure out where you were going. I literally saw the actor's van pulling out as I pulled in. So immediately when I got there, I realized, you're late.
Oh no.
And there was like this, I think she was lesbian, so it's kind of this tough, kind of, ADPA person. I was like, hi. She's like, are you supposed to be on I said, I think I was supposed to be on that van. She goes, oh, you're late. Oh, you're starting things off. Well, you might not get in the movie now.
Oh, no.
And literally she was
shit.
just torturing me, but I could tell she was, she was just like, we need to show up on time, but she was just giving me the business, and we immediately liked each other. And I was thinking to myself, there is nothing in this world that is going to keep me from getting in this movie. I'm in this movie. And it was just a day. I was a day player. I had one line. And again, you have to also understand, there was no bend and snap back then. So I didn't even know what the bend and snap was.
Yeah.
I remember auditioning, because I was with that comedy group, the Nellie Olsons, and Joe Middleton, who cast Legally Blonde, and he cast, all the American Pie movies, and he just was the
Hence
comic.
the Jennifer connection.
Yes,
or
and
like
that's-
why
yes.
Jennifer's
well,
probably
the
in the
actual
movie.
Jennifer
Yep.
connection is through my girlfriend Nora, who is in the Nellie Olsons, the comedy group. She performs with a group called Unitard. Mike Albo, David Ilku, who was with Dueling Bankheads. These are all new.
Okay, I remember
These
Dueling
are all
Bankheads.
downtown
Yeah.
New York, Wigstock,
Yeah.
all very, very cool, awesome downtown geniuses. She wrote just if you're into Discovery, she wrote a play called David's Friend about her friend David who died of AIDS. It is a time capsule of late 70s New York. He was modeling for Tom of Finland. She's stripping at the sleaziest bars under the name Tanya. She's a graduate of Columbia University. You know what I mean? She's wonderful, So here's a great tidbit of information. She and Jennifer, Nora's from Cambridge. Jennifer is from, I can't remember the Massachusetts town, but they both met at an open call for a movie in the summer of 77 that was going to be released in the summer of 78 in Massachusetts. Can you think of what big blockbuster that all the kids, they found it was going to be about teenagers
And
and a shark.
Oh, for Jaws?
Jaws.
Okay.
So Jennifer Coolidge and Nora Burns were like 15-year-old girls. They met waiting in
that's
line
funny.
to be cast in Jaws.
Are they
2.
extras in the movie?
No, it was
Jaws.
big,
Okay, Jaws
it was a
2.
big open call.
That makes sense.
For all those
Sure.
teenagers. And what happened was the original script for Jaws 2 was very, very, very dark, which this
It wasn't about the opening of a Holiday Inn?
No. And they only have that one shot that the original director of Jaws 2 that got fired off of, and it's chilling scene. I believe I can't remember, but it's just the fin in the harbor, and it's really cold and creepy because it was about how the town had not recovered from the shark attacks, and that it was a very sad, and then people were just like, nobody wants to see that. You know what I mean? It's like Exorcist 2. It's like, no. Let's just possess her, So then it changed, and that's when they decided, because Spielberg had such a tough time shooting on the water, let's move it down to Pensacola Beach, and then there's that weird, if you look at Florida where that Holiday Inn, it's not there anymore. One of the hurricanes recently took it out. I'm obsessed with that story that's a brand new Holiday Inn, and you look at the decor, with the Amity High School band, bum, bum, bum. So they had auditioned for that. Okay. So Joseph had also, of course, cast her in the American Pie movies and everything. And he would regularly come and see her shows. And he, Nora, and Jennifer were peas in a pod.
Okay.
So it was literally one of those things. It's like, hey, John, there's this movie you're doing, Legally Blonde, Reese Witherspoon. Listen, you just come in and be the big old queen that you are, and you have got the part. And I was like, okay, no problem.
I can do that.
Taught my spinning class at Crunch, put on some, I remember I had my slides that I had got on Melrose Place, had this little sleeveless, I was in skin tight pants and my long hair. And I remember going in and, oh my God, the bend and snap works every time. Bend and snap. And I remember just going down and up and snap. And I was just he was just like, be a big queen,
Yeah.
So it literally was that easy. I got that. And then I showed up on the set. When I finally got to the set, everything was cool. Reese Witherspoon came on the set, and she made a point to introduce, say hi to everyone that was on set.
Yeah.
Second time I put my foot. First time I was like, I missed that van, so already I'm sticking out. Then her whole thing was she was telling a blonde joke, and I think she told the same blonde joke to everyone. Just when it's like, hey, what did the blonde say to the so-and-so? Yeah. I don't know. What'd she say? Sitting there, Reese Witherspoon, she's so funny. And then, of course, me being in this. Okay, if you knew the material my comedy group was doing back then, it's like you could never do it today. I go, well, hey, what does the blonde say after her first blowjob? And the minute when blowjob
you just
left my
lips,
face,
just like
right in her face, she had just had the baby because the little baby. I remember Ryan.
Yeah,
Ryan
Philippi
showed up with the baby on set one day.
Probably Ava.
Yeah, it was Ava. She was her first kid. She had just had it, and it came out, and I just knew right then. It's like, she's from Tennessee. It's like, she's a good girl. It's like, you don't say words.
Oh my God.
And Reese Witherspoon, she went, what? Like she didn't even want to hear. And I said, I love you. And then made a look like I had a mouthful of cum, and then I said I love you, and then swallowed. And she just kind of turned and left. So it was just, what are you going to do? Luckily, Jennifer was there, and it was funny because Jennifer's Jennifer, and I just remember the hair woman was always kind of chasing her around, and Jennifer would drop a bag of chips that she was eating, and then she'd go into this room, and then some makeup would be, who left these fucking chips? We need to keep the set clean, and we're all just like just loving every minute of it, and Tony Basil actually set that scene.
Oh, okay.
Did she
Mickey, you're so fine.
Did she block it?
She blocked it.
Okay.
So I don't know if she choreographed it. I mean, yeah, she did. She did choreograph it because I remember for the anniversary, we were all interviewed in, I believe it was Newsweek or Time Out New York or one of those magazines, and they talked all about this scene, which was kind of fun. But there were the writers who were talking about, bend and snap. Like, what is that, So we did it, and I remember they were shooting that scene in the choreography, and I just remember watching them and just going, because I'm a dancer. I'm not a trained dancer, but I was hired as an actor. I was the only other person other than Reese and Jennifer and the UPS guy who had a line. So I wasn't a dancer. I was an actor, meaning you're not dancing. And I just remember looking at them all dancing and just going, I could, because I didn't know it was going to be a muse. I just couldn't believe it. And that was the thing, is that people don't realize, because of the way that scene is edited, the dance went on, guys. There was a whole...
Sure.
Okay, do you remember a TV show on MTV called America's Best Dance Crew?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, there were 2 girls that wound up on that show that were brilliant hip-hop dancers. There was this whole section where the girl, she has a ponytail, she's at the desk, she comes out and drops down and starts doing back spins and is breakdancing. But
And
they
none of
kind
it-
of went... No, to me, they went to the obligatory fat girl and let her do this thing, which she did about 3 times, freestyle, that they just filmed it.
Yeah.
And that's all they used. And it really was cute choreography. There's a really old woman, if you watch this scene, she was a little rascal. She had been around forever. She and this other woman were in the thing. And Ryan Heffington is the only other guy in that scene other than me. And Ryan Heffington just won an Emmy for choreographing Euphoria, and he also choreographed that I Wanna Swing on the Chandelier.
Oh, sure.
That song. Sia, with that girl from Dance Moms.
Yeah,
that was
sure. He
choreographed. So he went on.
Oh, he did that. Okay,
yes.
that's a big one. Yeah.
So if you're going back and you're looking at all these dancers, they all went on to do really great stuff. One still works for Tony Basil. And I remember the last shot of the day was my line. Reese had actually already gone home. So she's technically, if you look when I come out, she's not really in the shot. But that's typical. They want to wrap her as soon as possible. But I luckily, like I said, I came in there and I said, there is nothing any of you are going to do that is going to keep me from getting
I'm going
in this
to
movie.
nail the shit out of this line.
Nail it.
And you cannot cut it now.
They had to do, there was one cross where... there is a weird cut where if you're watching the scene with Jennifer and Reese and the UPS guy comes in, if you look in the background, you can see some... I'm obsessed with continuity shots, like hair continuity.
Same. Mm-hmm.
And this is a continuity fail.
Yeah.
I pop in and out because there was one time where the director, who I think was also found by Steven Spielberg, because he was a young Robert Lukatic. It was his first film, and he only did like 1 or 2, like Went a Date with Tad Hamilton, and I never heard from him again. But he started really liking me and thinking I was funny and wanting more gay hairdresser stuff, you know? So I was in the background, and you see me really going crazy on this girl's hair, and I've just got a comb. And then sometimes when you see Reese Witherspoon, I'm behind there, and then it cuts to Jennifer, it cuts back to Reese, and I'm not there. The girl is just sitting there, and then it cuts back to me, and I'm literally going, yeah. And then as she's getting up to demonstrate the bend and snap, that's when I make my cross. And I remember the first time I made that cross, the sound guy stopped. Was like, cut. He's like, he's walking way too hard. Because I had made noise with my heels. So then I had to walk down. That was my other thing. I was like, I'm going to walk so quietly to not get cut out of this movie. But I wound up at the end of that day, they gave me another contract that was for a 3-day contract, which means you went from a day player to a 3-day player, and then at the end of that, I got a week contract. So they actually kept me there for that whole shoot. After they finished doing that big salon scene, there were other scenes in the salon. And I actually have one more scene where you just see my hands and a comb combing the back of Holland Taylor's hair when she whips around. And Jennifer Coolidge used to imitate this line, and we would crack up on set. Holland turns around because Jennifer and Reese are crying or something, and Reese is like, I don't know, what am I going to do about my boyfriend? And then Holland Taylor whips around and she goes, if you're going to let some lousy creep spoil, then you're not half the girl I thought you were. It's some line like that. And then I remember after we did a couple of takes, Jennifer just kept going, if you're gonna let some love, because Jennifer is so funny doing her own take on impressions. Like there was one time we were all at it was like a Denny's in Santa Monica or something. It was after a show we did at Highways or something. And I remember Jennifer had come out and we were all going to eat. So it would have been, kind of this New York contingent. Because, Jennifer and Nora, my friend, also worked at this high-end restaurant with Sandra Bullock. And they've got all these Sandy Bullock.
She's talked about that on Conan before.
Well, it's more fun when she's not on TV. Sure. She and Nora really let it loose on it. But I remember we were at this table and we were talking about Renee Zellweger. And of course, Renee had that kind of weird scrunched up face and everything. Yeah. And we were just, we weren't being mean. We were just talking about people like gays and their fag hag goddesses too. And I remember I go, what is it? It's like, or we're talking about lip implants or collagen or something. And Jennifer goes, and I never got this until years later. She goes, they look like squid. They look like squid. And I thought, the lips themselves look like calamari? And no, she meant the lips look like the lips on a squid. And if you look at a cartoon of a squid, the squid just has like a little circle with a line drawn through it, and those are the lips. And it's true, squid. But then I said, well, like Renee Zellweger, it's like, what does she look like? And Jennifer goes, she looks like this. And Jennifer threw her head down, and she did something to where she bit her upper lip. And she looked like Predator from the movie Predator, but it was Renee Zellweger. And it was just, I just remember thinking, God, it was like Large Marge. How did you contort your face into that shape? That was so funny.
Oh my God.
So yeah, she was a scream. And I remember Jennifer, every day I would show up on set, she would just look at me. She would go, oh my God, wow, you're amazing. Yeah, you have worked this one line. She would literally go, I've never seen somebody work one line like you. And I really thought that I was being blessed. I was like, I've got it made. This is going to be good for me. I'm like, I worked it. And, unfortunately or fortunately, I didn't really get any other feature films until few years later. I did Nick and Nora, which Joseph Middleton also cast. But,
okay.
So for as little as I have worked, I have had really, really fun, great experiences. Because it's like, who's going to come on. I literally felt like after the Bend and Snap that I was going to be I'll have what she's having woman. I literally, that's why I always just think, come on, that's a great line. Mm-hmm. And can I tell you, I know we've gone on too long. Oh. But years later, I love that. Years later, actually in 2017, so this would have been 15 years after Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
I was doing my show, Love Connie 2 Electric Boogaloo, where Connie winds up in a Turkish prison for dancing sluts or Vanity 6 type girl groups, because that's what happened. We had to put on a show for, I don't know, the Sultan of Brunei, and then I did a Shakira, but after the show, we were upstairs at the Casita del Campo, and we were posing for pictures, and this woman she was lovely, but I could tell she had probably had a few margaritas, and she just kept wandering into the shots, and she was putting her arms around me and loving me. And I finally looked at her, and she goes, I just want you to know, when you came out on stage tonight and you started doing your thing, I just said to my friends, I said, that's me. That's me. And that's a big compliment to me, because I don't change my body to transform into a drag queen or a real woman, but I am real girl drag, meaning I do real girl makeup. Yeah. I don't change my eyebrows aren't on my forehead. They're my eyebrows. Yeah. And that's mostly just my take of the big fuck you to everyone growing up who says to any little sissy boy who's maybe trying not to be a sissy boy, you're a girl, because it's off-putting and now we're in a totally different mind frame of what that means to call someone a girl or to misgender or gender them. But when women come up and like, I'm you, I'm going, yes, because mine is just the fucked up saying, no, you said I look like a girl, so I don't need to tuck. I don't have to shave. You said I look like a girl. I have a hairy well, no, you said it. So that's why. Yeah. And aesthetically, I like the look of it. But she kept saying, I'm you, I'm you. And then I went home, saw that she had tagged me in some photos. That woman was the writer of Legally Blonde, Krista Smith.
Oh, wow. Sure.
Yeah, Kirsten Smith. And I wrote her and I said, "It's me, Maurice, the Bend and Snap guy from Legally." And she goes, "Oh my God." And I said, "Did you have any idea?" She goes, "I had no idea."
Oh,
she goes, "We totally came to your show."
Oh, wow.
So, it's very strange, the business and how it all comes around. But, yeah.
That's amazing.
Good stuff.
I love that.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Connie, you're a treasure.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
And your
you.
wealth of knowledge of movies is
I love it.
kind of intimidating.
Well,
too.
Listen, I'm an idiot savant. I don't really know anything. I've hung around a lot of people, showrunners in the business, and
Yeah.
I try to keep up with them. I like to say there are people that are more intelligent, maybe more smarter, but I do have this kind of gumbo. Again, it's hard to keep it on track, but I love being unleashed.
Yeah.
And if you put a microphone in my hand, as you can see, it's for that's why I don't speak in my drag shows, because I really want to get people out in under an hour. And if I have a microphone, things tend to multiply.
Oh my goodness.
But
Well, we would love to have you on again.
Hey,
for something
listen,
else
have you on
in the
again.
future.
I think
Yeah.
that from your knowledge of the Grease movies, you should pick Team Grease and Team Grease 2, and we should do a whole... Because I can pinpoint you. I'm going to win.
You're gonna
Grease
you're
is
gonna,
the superior
You're gonna have to come
movie.
on
Connie
with,
versus Drew.
You're gonna have to come on with
Oh,
Drew.
Drew and I
Yeah.
would be. Drew and I should actually be team captains. Oh,
There you go.
Because
We'll make
Drew
a
and
whole
I are
game show out
old
of
friends,
it.
and we have a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and we have a deep respect for each other and our journeys
Absolutely.
and everything. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, we'll have to make that happen. But
Thank
this was so much fun. But until then, it's time to say our goodbyes. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you next
Bye.
time.
I just got cut.
And thank you so much for listening, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Yes, indeed.
Oh my
wait,
gosh.
wait. Did I turn that lower? Oh, I turned that too low. Let's redo this.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why. Okay. I turned it down because the ending. I was like, why can't I hear myself? Okay. And thank you so much for listening, everybody.
Wow, what a guest!
Absolutely.
That wealth of knowledge of movies.
We love Connie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like Connie's up there with Drew and Jackie, and they just have that amazing knowledge.
Just everything
of
that they can pull of just movies. I mean, we know a lot about film, but it's like nothing compared to all of them.
But I love any references to like these like 70s people, these like kooky 70s Pamela Sue Anderson. All the people from Poseidon Adventure, and oh my goodness, what a ride. That was fun. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Well, it's about that time.
It is about that time.
Patreon shout outs.
Yes, indeed. We would like to say a great big thank you to all of our patrons, including Flemish Giant, Jackson, Millie, Darcy, Ted, Benny, Jermel, Melanie, Christopher, Susan, JJ, Shelby, Michael, Charlie, Muffy, Paul, Jamie, Drew, Genevieve, Dawn, Joshua, Emma, Melly, Aaron, Melinda and Jim, Jessica, Nick, Shannon, Christine, and Rufino. Thank you so much for being patrons, you guys. Head over to patreon.com/movies that made us gay to check out all of the supplemental content.
Yeah, we post photos there. I post the episodes when they're up early.
Yes, if
they are done early.
If we have an episode finished early, then it will definitely get posted on Patreon before its Friday release date.
Coming up in the next month, kind of going into October, we are doing episodes early, so I will get them up on Patreon pretty much as soon as I'm finished editing them.
Yes.
They'll be there for patrons.
So keep a lookout for that, patrons. And there's also the monthly newsletter. There are the Watch With Us commentary tracks, all that fun stuff that you can get on patreon.com/movies that made us gay. All of your donations go directly into keeping this podcast up and running.
Yeah.
And on the airwaves that are non-existent. because it's on the internet. But head over to do that. It's really fun.
You can go ahead and write us a review in iTunes or Spotify. We would love to hear it.
Absolutely. If you are an Apple Podcast listener or if you're a Spotify listener, you can write a review or you can give us a 5-star rating. We would love if you did either of those things.
Yeah.
And if you did write a review, we'll go ahead and read it on an upcoming episode. We'd also like for you to subscribe, and you can follow us on social medias.
Yeah.
We are at Movies That Made Us Gay on Instagram and Facebook.
And on Twitter at MTMUGPod.
Yes, indeed. You can follow our personals if you would like. My name is Pete. I am at Peter Lasagna on Instagram and Twitter.
And I'm Scott Youngballer on Instagram, and follow my letterbox.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This was another fun episode. We will see you next week, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.